One of the complexities you brought up, you mentioned a few times already, are these 21st century bugs, the pathogens all around us. You mentioned parasites. You mentioned something like Lyme Borrelia. I've seen it many times where a patient comes in thinking they don't have any infections and they have multiple co-infections. Do you see it on the norm with your patients that they are suffering from some sort of co-infections and pathogenic infection?
It's very common.
Yeah.
Patients have to, I feel like have to be ready to understand some of this too. So sometimes I'll start with just some basic immune markers and say, oh, that's low on you. Let's think about what that could be. And in a gut panel to be like, oh, look, there's fungus. I can't really tell you how many people catch growing fungus in their gut and overgrowth of yeast. And I found one great, I can do energy testing on this too, but if I can catch it on a physical document, sometimes people really, they can really tune into that. There's this guy he's a doctor. He just looks at parasites all day under the microscope in stool. It's his job. So he'll catch things. So we look at what is on your actual test that they saw in your poop. So, and then that can really click. And then I'll say, let's just start small by targeting these more major issues. And then things like Lyme and co-infections that I can move people into if they're ready. But it's amazing how many people have some immune suppression now in some form or other. It'll start just like, oh, your white count's low, or oh, this one marker's low, and why are you so inflamed here? And then we go from there.
Do you think
so common?
Do you think that's the biggest factor here? Is that most of us have poor immune function and response, and that's what allowing, because a lot of these pathogens, let's be honest, have been around for a very long time, right? Whether it's viruses, EBV, all these different viruses. They mutate, but our immune systems have been very good at keeping up to the most part with it. Whereas now it's just prevalent, right? How many people have infections that we can't keep in check and are becoming real chronic conditions. Whereas in the past, yes, you have these around, you can maybe even get an infection of something, but you're able to handle it. Your immune system does what it has to, and you stay healthy. So do you think we are in a state, an epidemic really, not of infectious diseases, but of lowered immunity?
Absolutely. To start, more than half of our immune system is in our gut. The microbiome has, more than 1 trillion cells. It has there's more cells that aren't us in our body. There are bacteria that are us, which actually is another interesting thing to process, is that there's a lot of things living inside us.
So many. I think we forget that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the biggest thing when you're told you have an infection, you like freak out a little bit, right?
Right.
Like, something's in me, like trying to kill. It's like, there's tons of things in you that are either trying to help you or kill you at all times. Trillions of them basically in you. There are more of you, like you said, of them than you actually. And we need to, I think, understand that there is a whole civilization within us. And we need to cultivate that civilization and not let them turn into like anarchists and, criminal kind, because then you get this really bad situation and your body reacts with inflammation, with chronic disease and everything else.
Yeah.
So, No, I was going to say, knowing that and knowing that so many people turn to antibiotics, like how do you get people to stop doing that and cultivate their civilization to be more behaved?
The lovely question. Well, first I often, if we start with the gut, because that's where, I think a lot of our weaker immunity is we don't have the variety of healthy bacteria in our gut microbiomes than we used to, living in urban environments. And then just for so many reasons, and all the herbicides, pesticides, there's many reasons for it. But, so first I think that's a big part of why our immunity is lower. I do think we have brand new levels of stress that are crazy intense. Just the amount of things we're exposed to, the amount of information and what children see at too young an age now. I mean, these are stresses on our body for a lifetime. So there's a lot going on, obviously, on so many levels. And as we both know, anything that affects the autonomic nervous system can potentially cause disease or affect health. But going back to your question directly, I like to start with the gut. So generally, because I say, look, you've had a lot of antibiotics. Let's do some restoration. I can't tell you, people come to me on an antibiotic and they've gotten put on a fluoroquinolone too for something. And they're in the middle of it when they come in to see me. I'm like, okay, well, let's just step one. Let's do gut restoration. Let's just protect your gut from this.
Yep.
There's enzymes, there's depending what that person's body resonates with, but there are enzymes, there are antifungal things we can do to protect for the overgrowth. Fungus loves to grow after antibiotics. For some people more than others, but it just loves to grow when you're killing off the good bacteria. It's like, ooh, I have an opportunity now. Leaky gut. There's all kinds of great leaky gut healers out there. Bromoth, colostrum there's some incredible colostrums out there. Goat and cow, even cow colostrum, right, for a lot of people to tolerate. Glutamines, there's lots of things to heal leaky gut. There's, for certain people, probiotics are I did not realize and understand the value of probiotics until I was in my practice. I think, that a lot of people get told they have SIBO, they can never take a probiotic again. That's just, I have to tell you, my patients who I've been able to work up to take a probiotic are the ones that tend to not have more gut issues again, which is interesting because that tells me that potentially we really do need that extra support with those extra healthy bacteria that we're not getting anymore. But I do a lot to kind of counteract the antibiotics if I can, whatever's growing because of it, whatever's leaking in the gut, whatever's not happy. And then, as far as trying to keep people off antibiotics, my goal is just to target whatever their weakness is in their body and support it. Because it may just be, even someone who has just real liver issues, that could be from so many reasons, or has really weak adrenals, that can set off a whole hormonal axis issue, and then your immune system tanks. So there's so many different reasons for it, but I think we support the organs that are weak. We heal the gut because most people need that. We get rid of any of the really bad guys in the gut. And then we can look for other, like those more stealth issues like viruses, Lyme, all those other things too.
Yeah.
And then again, the emotional and the traumas, some people have traumas that just they're so hard to overcome that could be really weighing them down too. So
yeah, it's a very terrain theory driven approach as opposed to the germ theory where it's just like go after that. How are you going to do it? You're going to drop a nuke bomb of an antibiotic and hope it kills, them, but kills all those good guys too. So I think if you, as European biological medicine talks about, you cleanse the terrain, you create an environment where these pathogens cannot exist or persist very well, but the good ones can. And you keep going from there and you see which organ. I mean, you could point at any organ in the body and, I'm sure you could show 50 to 100 things that are in our everyday life impacting it negatively. So it's just which organ is going to go in which person first is the question. How do you then restore it and do it? But it's true. It's like we are living in just a toxic sea, and it's an unfortunate thing. And, again, we kind of stick to a lot of these physical things like the toxins, which are physical in this, but so much is also, as we started in the energetic side, and I want to bring it back and change it a little bit,